Warning, F-bombs are armed and will be dropped right fucking now. I hate the internet. Constantly is cutting out. And yes, like now, that might work. Okay, so this is 2 December 2021, and god damn it. And popping out the chat at this point to get it into the stream. Share screen. Tabs? Yeah, that's the one. Share that so that you guys can see it. And fix it so it doesn't cover half of my body. That would be nice too, right? I swear all of this was set up 5 minutes ago, and then my internet cut out. Yes! Okay. All right. Gotta start with the elephants in the room. A couple days ago, there was a shooting at a school, Oxford High School, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch where it was. 3 students are dead. My understanding is that the shooter is still alive, and okay, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Apparently, or allegedly, I should say, the father of the student who did the shooting had just bought the gun. The kid stole it and went to the school. Now, I know absolutely nothing about his motives. I know nothing about his plan. For all I know, this was one particular person that was targeted, and these 3 got in the way. For all I know, all 3 of them were specifically targeted. For all I know, nothing. All right. I know only what I know. This is actually quite unfortunate, and this is also an example of what would be not happening. Small flag on, we got a yellow flag on the play here. After mandatory carry. The simple fact of the matter is the kid knew nobody would be able to stop him. What is to stop him there for? Ah, shit. I forgot something, guys. What's going to stop him then? Now, there's a very legitimate question to be asked. What if he went and did it anyway? Well, then your mind is clearly not right. And you were going to do something no matter what. Spudge, could you pin that for me? Okay. At that point, he would have done what he was going to do, no matter what. Nothing to be done, except stop him once he's started. I hate to make it sound so callous and indifferent, but a school is a target-rich environment. You got at least a couple hundred people who are completely defenseless, corralled into a small area. How hard is this? How much intellectual power does it take to understand what that looks like to somebody who's bent on violence no matter what? It is unfortunate. It is tragic. It is a shame. And it's not something that's going to change just because magical fairy dust is dropped onto the story by saying, well, we're going to ban all these things. Would this shooting have happened? Maybe, maybe not. And I say maybe, maybe not. All right. There we go. If you're determined enough, you're going to take yourself out in the process. If you're intellectual enough, or if you're smart enough, you can figure out how to make the gun anyway. So we're kind of back to square one there, aren't we? There, that's better. The next step of the process, remember, I'm also HLS Security Services. So I do actually understand these concepts. Is to fortify a school like we do airports, only higher. Much, much higher. A strange combination of airport and stadium level security. With the addition of, you've got to also build the building itself so that if something does happen, either you can mitigate the consequences very, very quickly, or you can control the situation as best as you can. What I'm talking about is escape routes and hardening the building so bullets can't go through. That's where I'm going with this. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. This is a rough morning for me. I had a very, very late night. Whoa! Hi, Ghost. I did not see that until just now. Excuse me. It's unfortunate. It really is. There's not a whole lot we can do to stop it once you've decided to do so. Which leads into subject number 2. Bear with me for pronunciation here. I believe it's pronounced Waukesha. There was a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and somebody decided to use a van, I believe it was, as a bullet, as a shotgun. The last I heard, it was 6 dead and over a dozen still in the hospital. And at least a few of them were children. Another unfortunate example of you can't stop people who are determined no matter what. There is actually video of him driving down this closed street where the parade was supposed to happen. There's stories, and flag on the play, I'm not sure if these stories are true or not. I have only what I've been told so far, that he, quote, zigzagged. The purpose of rapidly turning left and right in such a fashion is to aim for more people. And if you don't kill them, you'll at least hurt them, and that's a good start. All right. Would guns have stopped this? Probably not. And then that's the truth. Shooting him as he's running down the street would have prevented him from doing what he intended to do, the way he intended to do it, but it would have caused him to wreck out earlier, or in a way he hadn't planned to. that might have helped to mitigate his exact plans, and it would have given people a chance to see something's wrong and hopefully get out of the way. But at the end of the day, he probably would have killed some people, and that was his entire purpose. You can't stop people who are fundamentally determined to do what they're planning to do, but you can mitigate them. At Oxford, as the situation stands now, only the knowledge that it would not get anywhere or not get very far would have deterred him, and he would have waited until after school or something else. I don't know. We'll never really know. At Waukesha, nothing would have stopped him. That was his whole point. He had planned specifically around that. We're lucky it was only as bad as it was. In both cases, the presence of a legitimate gun very much could have, lowered the situation's severity. People have been shot while driving cars in erratic fashions, and while it usually ends better in those situations, those are also target weak environments. Guys flying down the street at 80 miles an hour trying to get away from the cops or whatever, versus Waukesha, where they were all lined up right there on the curb. What could we have done to have mitigated Waukesha? Unfortunately, only physical barriers could have stopped him from driving into the street. And when I say physical barrier, I mean a physical barrier big and powerful enough to stop a vehicle. Those are few and far between. No, they're not few and far between. They're expensive to put into place in sufficient quantities to be effective. Jersey barriers. So about 3 years ago, I saw a test by one of the companies that makes Jersey barriers. They wanted to see how effective their product really was. Well, the simulated terrorist got through, but only because the simulated terrorist aimed for a weak point where leverage could have worked to his advantage. It's like 4 ways to mitigate that. The first one would have been to add more and turn them 90 degrees so that you have to push the entire thing out of the way, and you're still going to hit 2 or 3. And the second one that quickly comes to mind, at least, is to anchor them somehow. You can anchor Jersey barriers. There's a hole in them that is intended to put a fence post for construction sites that could just as easily be used to put an anchor pole that makes it that much harder to move. Those are the 2 ways that quickly come to mind. The problem is that's expensive, and the longer the parade is, the more expensive it becomes. Would that have helped, though? Yeah, probably. Unless he went full in which case you still have a very serious problem. I don't want to give people ideas, but yeah, you would have had to put the Jersey barriers at the far end of the block that's actually closed off, which means nobody parks there, but everybody could rally there. Hey, Totes, welcome back. Everybody, I want you all to give Totes a little bit of respect. All right, this is coming from me, Totes. Totes has finally dropped the real F-bombs. And this is not you guys know I don't like sarcasm. You guys know I avoid that, right? So this is not sarcasm. Totes, you got my respect now in a way you didn't before. And you're right, that is bad language. The kind of language even I try to avoid. But sometimes you got to do it. Also, on that note, I don't care how high up in the ivory tower you might be. If you got to say fuck once in a while, just say it. All right, that is a little bit of a message to basically three people: Viva Free, Daisy Cousins, and exiled Linus. The three of them, they don't drop the F-bombs. David will never, ever drop an N-bomb. I don't even think his mouth can form that word. I don't think Daisy can drop an N-bomb. Exile did it once for the pure shock and awe value. And sometimes you just got to do it. And just be honest with the world. And Totes has crossed that bridge. Oh, Totes. Caucasian Sasquatch is formerly... oh, God damn it, Squatch, what was your old name? So everybody give him a little respect. He's earned it. Okay. Planning will deter a lot of things. But the simple fact of the matter is a gun will stop everything eventually. Toad said something just now that was very important. I just try to keep it real in a world full of fantasy. I had all of my fantasies ripped out of my head very forcibly in 2003. All right. Every fantasy about the world died that day, that night. Now all I can do is keep it real. Hopefully, the lot of you will never come to a point in your life where fantasies are forcibly ripped out of your head like it was mine. I'm not talking about when Brent swapped my barrels. And yes, I'm actually still kind of butthurt about that. I'm talking about the day that there was an accident in my life that permanently changed my mind about everything. It's the day I started developing the PTSD. Somebody lied to me. There was a big problem that followed up behind it that permanently fucked me up. I'm sorry, Squatch. You've been going by this name for a while now. It's not my fault. All right. Keep it real no matter what. And if you have to use the bad words, use the bad words. For what it's worth, when I use that kind of language, I do 10 push-ups because I know. It's naughty. All right, moving on. I want to talk about the Rust accident. I'm going to remove my glasses here for a second because I'm mad. Everybody is trying to blame somebody else for everything that happened. At the end of the day, that gun was in somebody's hand and something happened. Everybody's saying, well, it's his fault. No. Okay. There's a reason why the rules in Hollywood for use of firearm on set is set up one way only. It's a bad way to set them up. And I openly acknowledge that. But it is set up that way. And part of the reason is not all actors, not all cameramen, not all boom mic operators Not all wardrobe people, you can continue this list all the way you want, know the first thing about guns. They couldn't tell a squib from a live round from a snap cap if you sat out there and screamed at them for 40 minutes. They wouldn't know what they're talking about. And that's okay. It's not okay, but let's move on past that for a moment. They don't know. They don't understand. Maybe they couldn't care less, or maybe they do care. It doesn't matter. There are some people who do know this and only this thing. All right. And they've been described as autistic, gun autistics in the past. I'm going to put the glasses back on because I'm falling behind. All right. That's okay too. There are literally people out there who can take one look at a bullet from 10 feet away and say, hey, why is there a live round here? These are all supposed to be squibs, or these are all supposed to be suicide rounds because it's going to be that close, or these are all supposed to be blanks. What's going on here? Hi, Zion. I know you walked in a moment ago. And that's okay. There are at least 2 such people on these sets. Correction, at least 1 such person. The weapons master is the sort of people that would know. Even I can't look you all in the eye and say that I could look at a table full of bullets and pick the squibs out from the suicide rounds from blanks, from the real bullets. I could pick out the snap caps from 20 feet away without my glasses on. Oh, that's it. That's the only ones I can pick out that fast. Blanks, I could probably pick out certain types of blanks, not all. And that's the truth. You can't depend upon the actors to know the difference between the types of rounds. That was not from Mama Carey. Mama Carey grew up in the shadow of the film industry, right? Without getting too deep into it, I have a second uncle, third uncle, something like that, who is a famous actor, right? He's never met me. I've never met him. But he's my mom's second uncle or some shit like that. Okay, that's fine. Great, good, whatever. That's how close to the industry. Mom did meet him when they were little somewhere. That's great. That's good. That's wonderful. Whatever. I actually got this from somebody who is working in the industry now, and she bluntly put it, this is the sort of thing that inevitably happens when you have retards with guns. Oh, no. Did you really drop the R-bomb? Yes, I did. Did she drop the R-bomb? Yes, she did. That's why the rules were set up. We cannot depend upon these people to know what they're doing, but we can depend on these other people to know what they're doing. That was the good news for Alec. Here's the bad news. It's not even out yet. And it's already, he did an interview, I guess it was last week, where he's talking to somebody from ABC, I think it was, about, I never touched the trigger. Bullshit. Let me put that where it is. A revolver will not discharge unless you touch the trigger. Maybe he didn't mean to. Maybe he wasn't thinking about it. Maybe he didn't realize he did it. There's a lot of military and police out there that will tell you after the shooting, I didn't realize I pulled the trigger until the gun recoiled, or until the bullets were flying, or until I saw him drop, or whatever. Fixed bayonets is one of those people. When she was in Bosnia, she had a shooting, and she would tell you, she has told a few people, nobody in the chat right now, she doesn't remember anything from the first warning shot. She remembered that part, to her staff sergeant saying, "Corporal, stop firing, cease firing, what the hell's going on?" or something to that effect. She doesn't even really remember that. She just remembers him shouting at her, despite the fact that she apparently reloaded. She reloaded a machine gun. And for those of you that have ever actually been around one, you realize how hard it is to reload an M2 by yourself without thinking something along the way. Yeah, that's part of how it went down. All right, I'm going to catch up on... Okay, I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick. What time are you going to be live? Right. Totes is saying, Tim Pool is a hypocrite. He blames Baldwin for rust. Flag on the play. Yes and no, and I'll come back to that in a second. But I think Kim Potts is innocent for Dante Wright. Flag on the play. I'll come back to that in a second. Those are both yellow flags. Zion, what's going on, bud? Totes also says, you're right. People expect everything to be a fake on a movie set. And that's part of the fun of it, isn't it? Most people don't realize that the shooting on the Hunt for Red October, when he shoots the cook's assistant, who turned out to be GRU, I think, those were real bullets. Those were actual 9mm bullets. And there's some really specific rules on how that's done. It's also apparently a cut shot from Aliens. When the suppression fire was brought out, they used real bullets and plywood, I guess, to indicate where the bullets actually strike. And they were going to green screen some parts of that in, but they either didn't do it or they cut that shot. Squatch says, I hate the word prop gun. Well, it is a thing, and it's not a thing in Hollywood. And I think we're okay. Yes, and I'm caught up because I know what time Squatch is going live. All right. I'm going to start with 2 flags on the play. Tim Pool is a hypocrite. He blames Baldwin for rust. Alec Baldwin is the producer on that set. At the end of the day, everything is always his fault because it is his money. He's responsible for hiring the director, for hiring the support staff, for hiring the goddamn catering. There's an amusing story about catering in Hollywood, and how important it really is. Also, at the end of the day, he has to hire people he knows he can trust. And it appears he may have made some serious mistakes in this department. Whether the plinking story is true or not, at the end of the day, he's responsible for who he hired. Kim Potts. It's a slightly different story. I don't want to throw cops under the bus. Just because the bus happens to be there. But there's been a problem, and this was not the first time it came up, with tasers versus handguns. All right. Potts said, I'm going to tase him, I'm going to tase him, and then shot Wright with her gun. Did she become confused about which weapon she pulled? That's a real possibility. Is it possible, therefore, that we need to really review taser and handguns and start figuring out what the fuck is going wrong there? Well, actually, yeah! We needed to do that after the San Francisco subway incident. And to their credit, San Francisco did start working on this problem, saying what happened, why are we having this, why did this problem even conceptually come up. They moved the taser to the other side of the body, and their cops will just have to train and train and train and train until they could literally do it without any sort of thought process. There's a legend, and it is a legend. It has never been substantiated properly. When Audie Murphy was standing on top of that M4 firing the M2 down into the Germans charging him, he hit one of the Germans. The German's body, the entire body exploded from the waist up, and his legs continued to run for a couple of paces and then tumbled end over end. End over end, that's the part that gets me. End over end. Even without a brain to control them. That's some real muscle memory at work. Now, is that story true? I don't know. It's an interesting story. And that's the man's legs knowing exactly what to do before they even got told what to do. Kim Potts is unfortunately an example of something we need to really, really start fixing completely. Okay. Yes. 1700 here, so we do have a problem, you're right. Okay, and Squatch said Alec Baldwin was in possession of a firearm that shot 2 people from his possession. So, yeah, that's true. And he also doesn't know the first fucking thing about how to deal with a firearm, which is why he's not allowed to be in charge of the process. Now, we need to do something about that situation. We need to do something about a lot of situations where things happen that could have been avoided. That's the truth, which is actually the next subject, and I'm going to move on to it for now. BOEBERT versus OMAR. They've got this weird feud going on, and I think Totes will join me here. There is an incredible and unbelievable hypocrisy of Ilhan Omar calling anybody anything after doing everything that she has done. Right? She's actually accused people of being racist for nothing more than being born. She's called people terrorists when the simple fact of the matter is, no, they weren't terrorists. They weren't even stupid. Their actions were justified. I'm talking about Rittenhouse. Fuck you. That will also be the next subject. Robert. Oh, hell. What's her first name? Senator BOEBERT. Should take that note. Lauren BOEBERT said something about Ilhan Omar that was really, really not nice at all. Right? Yeah. Really an inappropriate comment under the best of circumstances. On the other hand, it's up there like me dropping an N-bomb or a C-bomb. Although with fixed bayonets, when we're face-to-face, I actually am supposed to call her that. It's a thing. Run with it. Either way. On the other hand, we're not talking about the wisest of the mystics and the most innocent of the innocents here. The fact that Ilhan has called people terrorists for being called Rittenhouse a terrorist, amongst others, and then has turned around, before having tried to pretend like 9/11 was not a thing or not a big thing. You got a lot of goddamn nerve taking offense at anything, bitch. You don't belong in Congress. You belong in prison. Not that she's the only person, the only elected official. What the hell? Okay, guys, stand by. I just had somebody drop in. Oh! Okay. Stand by, guys. Resolve this complication, this unexpected event. I know what this is about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Colonel Conservative.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're very live. You got some background noise that's hurting my ear.
Yeah,
I know what this is about.
If you want me to duck out, that's fine, my man. I don't mind. I was actually just trying to leave a comment because I can't comment on YouTube.
Okay, do it.
All right, so just kick me out of here and I'll start commenting on your thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. I'll kick him out. I know what he's planning on doing. My bad, guys. I should know better by now. Squatch, I usually leave a pinned comment at the top of the Thursday morning stream. Shit. Oh, there we go. For a guest to come in. Okay, there we go. Where was I? Oh, for somebody with a history of being a raging racist, Ilhan Omar has a lot of goddamn nerve taking offense at anybody for anything. And that's the truth. Wow. Okay. So you can see the chat in this stream. I'm particularly bad about that. That Squatch would make a comment about Ilhan's brother is that's to be expected. We're both trench rats. For Totes to make that same comment, that caught me off guard. And yes, Totes, it's still a pinned comment, people. It's a pinned comment. No, Squatch, I can be a really nasty little shit flinging trench rat if people want to cause a problem. You remember a couple of weeks ago, I seemed kind of distracted. Well, somebody came in and his username started me off knowing this guy's a problem. I need to kick him out. As a matter of fact, I eventually moved the chat window over so I wouldn't see him coming back in and leaving and back in and leaving. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to take a look at something because I got somebody in the, okay. Like I said, I've got Karn backstage and he wants to leave comments. And so it's telling me 2 comments. Where are they? Yeah, and yes, I am. Unusually aggressively protective. Some people. The night when the sheriff's office came to my place because somebody had tried to break into my house. That night probably wouldn't have gone that way, but my girlfriend was with me. And if it had just been me, it probably would have been me with a broken hand again. It wasn't just me, it was me and her. And that's why the brass knuckles came out. So, yeah. I'm not always a good person. Never a good person, but moving right along. All right. Speaking of not always good people. And like I said, I know my Karn's here. He's not going to like this. Rittenhouse versus the MᶜMICHEALS. All right. Kenosha, Wisconsin broke down into borderline outright anarchy last summer over a shooting of a black man by white cop. The jury in that case determined that no, the cops didn't do anything wrong. My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, is that not only did they not do something wrong, the officers were not even disciplined, right? You don't punish somebody if they did it right. You don't fire them. They did it right. Right? Take a paramedic as an analogy. Paramedic does CPR on person, and person lives. Are you going to punish him for not counting to 5 out loud? No. You don't punish him for not counting out loud to 5. You punish him if he did it wrong. And punishment scales. He counted to 4 and then did the breath. Well, okay, you're going to practice CPR 100 times as your punishment. Punish them if they do it wrong. That's when you're in trouble. And as far as the department could tell, they did nothing at all wrong. The city still descended into, you know what? Yeah, really anarchy. 2 nights of outright riots, buildings burned. One jack-off joke who tried to build an improvised bomb out of a gas station in a dumpster, which that was a stupid plan. If it had worked, it would have been epic. It failed because he didn't know what he was doing. Right, and because I know there's a couple of people listening in who might have some idea what I'm talking about. It's all about how to get to the final ignition source. He couldn't get to the final bomb, so his plan, while novel, was failed to begin with. That's chalk that up under learn to speak code. All right. He had the fuse, but not the grenade itself. All right. everything that Rittenhouse did that night in the cold light of day, you can look back and say, you know what? Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It was very much trench ratty shit. But he didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. Right down to trying to, as we would learn over the course of the trial itself, trying to avoid the violence until there was no other choice. I'll get to that, Totes. Now the McMichaels case. That's a little bit different. There was a house under construction on that, or renovation, excuse me, on that block. Arbery had been seen in the neighborhood. Okay. There's some statements that maybe the police were familiar with him to some degree. Yeah, okay. He was seen in the house again. The McMichaels were going down to effect what they described as a citizen's arrest. Flag on the plate. What a lot of us call a citizen's arrest is usually just a detention. And this is actually a pretty significant, but not terribly important distinction for most people. A detention is you have reasonable suspicion that crime is afoot and X person has some knowledge. Not X person is guilty, and it's a lower standard of understanding, right? The cops detained me one night. This was when I was still living in Sacramento, because they had a report of a rape in a neighborhood, and I was in the neighborhood when they showed up, when they finally showed up, like 20, 30 minutes later. They stopped me. They asked me who I was, what I was doing, what I know about a rape in the neighborhood. And I told them, well, since I'm the one that called 911, look in that building, because that's where I heard it coming from. They had a reasonable suspicion that crime was afoot. They had a 911 call. I know they had a 911 call because I made it. That crime was afoot, a rape, and that I had some knowledge of it. I was in the neighborhood when they showed up. They have a reason to wonder if I know something about it. It's not probable cause. They didn't find me over a victim. They didn't find me with a gun in my hand. They didn't find me with my pants down. Right? That would have been probable cause to stop me. The McMichaels had a reasonable suspicion that crime was afoot and this person knew something about it or was somehow involved. That's the difference between intention and an arrest. They stopped him, and their intention was to find out who he was and hold him. I don't know if their intention was to find out who he was. Their intention was to hold him for the police to show up and figure out what was really going on here. That was fine. That was great. That was good. They took the shotgun. You know, there's some allegations that they were told by the police that he was armed, or he was believed to be armed. I haven't seen this evidence yet. I can only say that that's the allegation that's been repeatedly made. Okay, so why couldn't they just take their handguns with them? Why did they have to go and grab a shotgun? They didn't have to do that. The time spent doing that meant that they lost time and he could have gotten away. Could there have been another black male in a white running suit that happened to be going through the same neighborhood? Well, I'm going to turn it over to a relative expert in this field. Squatch, what do you think? Is that a plausible scenario? That shotgun is the real reason they got in trouble. That escalated the situation very significantly. We're also talking about Georgia, not talking about Los Angeles or New York or someplace else where the KKK has never really held any viable power. We're talking about someplace else. Give me a second, guys. I just had another. Okay, Karn, I see that. Give me a second. Let me get through the rest of my rant, and then you can hop in. For what it's worth, I thought it was Squatch coming in. That shotgun was the reason they're in trouble now. If they had left that at home, this would have been a justified shooting and not a manslaughter. Okay, Karn, your mic is muted, and I'm not sure if you did that or not, so I don't want to.
Okay,
there you go.
I'd done it. What's going on, man? How's it going?
Okay, so here we go. I was going to do this in your stream, but okay.
So let's be honest. The same argument you're giving me with the shotgun, it's the same argument the left made with the goddamn rifle. Why should I care? Why, in terms of, why is that nitpick the one that breaks the camel's back? Why that particular straw? This is the problem I have with such analysis. It's not that it's a distinction with no difference. I mean, so, okay, hypothetically, they don't bring the shotgun. So they get attacked, they get mugged, they come in undergunned, underpowered. The question here is not, should they have brought something to defend themselves? That's obvious. Of course you should.
No,
the question,
that's not even the question.
Yeah, really?
No. Oh God, no.
Okay. So the question here is, should good men act to preserve and keep safe their own communities? And this ruling said clearly they shouldn't. And the problem I have conflating this case with the Rittenhouse one is the blatant fact that if the same jury had presided over Rittenhouse's case, Rittenhouse would have been found guilty. That's not in dispute. That's what we're dealing with here. And I don't think this has anything to do with law. It has everything to do with culture and which form of America you want to live in.
Okay. I got to stop you there for a second. Have you heard my argument on the MᶜMICHEALS versus Rittenhouse? Have you seen that video?
Yes, I did watch it, and okay. I saw some of your points, and some of them were valid, and others, as I say, with this distinction, some of them I just find annoying because to me they're distinctions with no difference in terms of reality. We have a radical left telling us that they want community policing. They just hate it when white people do it. How is that not obvious?
All right. Flag on the play. He's not actually wrong about the double standard. And I touched on this earlier with the BOEBERT versus Ilhan.
And she is bae, by the way.
Oh, I don't care. With my shit sight, seeing my shit eyesight, I couldn't tell the difference. All right. Seriously, if you knew, okay, my glasses are now up. You know what I can see on my screen?
Huh.
A big white blur with some yellow spots. I when I realized how bad my eyesight really was when I got these glasses. So yeah, I definitely need them.
And look, to the premeditation aspect, I don't think that because a man walks out of his home with a gun that he intends to kill someone, and that's really my beef with this, with the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And I know
Okay,
you've
hold
seen
up.
my video on this.
Oh yes, I
Okay,
commented.
go on.
I
Go
commented on yours.
I know. I'll give you the floor, and then I'll give you what you know is my spiel on this.
Audience, pay attention. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
for me, the primary difference between the Kyle Rittenhouse case and what happened with McMichaels is, what did I get at the end of it? And with the Rittenhouse case, the question was, do we send a kid to jail for defending his own life? And we got to exonerate and see an innocent person not go to jail. The end result of the Carmichael case, well, regardless of whether you want to make it about self-defense or about use of force or premeditation or the right to perform a citizen's arrest, I got 3 generally, to my knowledge, lawful citizens being arrested and convicted for felony murder. The cameraman got felony murder. Now, now here's my problem. When we
can we put him off to the side? Can we put the cameraman by himself?
Look, I'm okay. We're going to put the cameraman as right, but even if we're talking about the father and the son, look, these are not people that society at large should look at and say that is a criminal, that's a threat to society, and they need to pay for their actions and the content of their character. That's why we have prison. That's why we have jail. That's why we have degrees of crime. We want to give the appropriate punishment to the appropriate person. This case was not anywhere near about any of that bullshit. This was vengeance. This was not justice. And to pretend that it's justice, especially from people on the right, is infuriating. That this had nothing to do with who we are or who we should want our society to be. This is about telling and sending a message to the little plebs on the ground that if you see a criminal, the criminal in the act of a crime can now look you in the eye and say, mind your own business. Okay, or we will send you to jail.
You got to speed it up a little bit. Okay. First of all, let's hit the cameraman really hard and really fast. He shouldn't have been charged with anything. All right, a witness to a crime, somebody who's standing there, even if they know what's going on, doesn't mean they participated in it. Otherwise, the news reporters from Kenosha are also guilty of something.
Mm-hmm.
So have we, I think, thoroughly covered the cameraman, Bryant?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anybody who wants to argue with me, drop something in the chat and I'll take a look. All right, let's talk about the McMichaels themselves. All right.
Okay.
Kyle is going to a situation where raging violence has already occurred. There's been a car lot burned to the ground.
Correct.
There's been the day before, hadn't there been a murder or attempted murder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Granted. Now, was it his fault for going in a place he knew where there was going to be violence?
No, and I could really hammer that one down.
Uh-huh.
I could. I have, you know that.
I know.
He's 17 years old. 16 is a magic number for the M word. Militia, people. The word is militia.
Yeah.
And yes, it does require the sheriff. But you know what? We'll come back to that later. Just deal with that later. Also, they were trying to charge him as an adult for a crime of a juvenile, but let's move on past that for the moment. Excuse me. Two, the McMichaels. Was there any report of the suspect from the burglaries committing violence?
Now hang on. From what I understood. So, okay. So did you want me to continue with that from what I know about it?
It's a literally yes or no question, but okay.
Yes, they had reports from the owner of the house in construction, because it was the owner who had access to the camera feed, and it was the owner of that house who alerted them and told them, hey, someone had been on my property.
Okay, I'm aware of the last part of that statement, and that's actually not even a question. There's video, and I've seen it, of Arbery in the house. At least twice before that, one of them, he stole water. He stole water. I've seen that video. You can hear the water running. He stole water.
Okay,
that happened. Indisputably.
I understand all of that. I don't care. I'm largely unsympathetic regarding the nature of the property, why he was there, how long he was there, what he took while he was there. The question is, did the Carmichaels have, or did the McMichaels have reason to consider him to be a suspicious person?
Oh, yes, they did. That's also an established fact. In the courtroom, that was an established fact.
Okay, so if they have that standing, and in the act of trying to apprehend said suspicious person, which they have the right to, defend their own community, community policing, this is the left standard, let's use it. Why, when he aggressed on them, did they not have the right to, defend their own lives?
Okay. Guilty or not. Let's just play devil's advocate here for a second. Let's assume that Arbery had taken a drill or a hammer or something worth $1,000. I think that's the magic number. He's leaving the scene, right? And three guys roll up on him. What does that look like to you? Yeah, put yourself in that position. Three guys rolled up on you when you're not doing anything violent. And to me, it looks like they're getting ready to rob me. The best
now, hang
scenario.
On. Look, see, this is where I have no sympathy. I am not going to entertain the mentality or thought process of a dead criminal. I'm not going to do it. To me, there could not be a more moot conversation. The question is whether or not the McMichaels addressed him and said, hey, we want to talk, and whether or not he stopped.
Okay. Let's assume that did happen.
Look, hang on. And this is this is a very important point. Just because you enact a citizen's arrest, it does not require the consent or willingness of the person you are citizens arresting. Is their compliance a necessary component, or is it an external factor?
And I'm not sure what I don't understand the question, but let me ask you.
My point is.
Let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question that you seem to be dancing around. I'm kind of getting mad.
Okay, good. Go on.
Was the shotgun an appropriate, proportional response?
I don't think you're entitled to a proportional response. I think you're entitled
Oh,
to defend your life by any means necessary.
well, the law
I think you.
disagrees for a reason.
I think it's I don't think it's any different than bringing a handgun. I think
Well,
than a
yeah,
pocket knife, than a rock. The
yeah,
shotgun's just a tool.
That's a very different answer.
Well, he felt otherwise when he grabbed it.
Okay, so do they get to bring a nuclear bomb?
Oh, don't get ridiculous.
Well, no, it's okay. So you're saying that proportionality of response might be a factor?
The
Obviously,
use of force to deter force is the important factor.
okay. So why could they not then just bring their handguns with them and say, "Hey, stop! We need to talk to you. What's this about? We saw you coming from the house."
Why are we determining guilt by the size of the stick if we can both agree that sticks might be required?
Because there's still no need to go there. Right now, I want to put something that was brought up in the chat. No, the shotgun didn't show premeditation of anything.
No.
Right? It showed a lack of thought.
If anything, that is certainly true. I will grant you that it might have been a lack of thought. It might have been an overzealous precaution.
A whole lot of lack of thought.
But I'm not going to indicate guilt based on the caliber or the size of your weapon. The weapon is the weapon. Its point and purpose is clear regardless.
Okay. So can they bring a machine gun or an assault weapon with them?
Would it have worked?
Based on the definition I use and not some weird legal definition.
No. I'm not trying to be facetious. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to undercut your point. My point is simply, would it have worked?
No. Then my answer is no.
Okay. So let's hang on. Let's go the other way. Would it have worked if they had just brought the handgun or the pocket knife? How would those different scenarios have played out? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Not only did the McMichaels suspect him, the father had actually sat across from him at a table once. They knew who this person was. They knew that he'd had a record. They knew that this person had a criminal history. And he knew who he was dealing with and who was chasing him. That was a part of the altercation. So when I ask you if they had a smaller arms piece, how differently that would have played out, please be honest.
Okay. How this scenario would have played out if they had stopped him with handguns instead of the shotgun?
Now, I'm not presuming his death. I am simply presuming that I'm in their shoes and trying to apprehend an individual.
Apprehend an individual. Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm sure you have.
I didn't have to shoot, but
most of us.
They roll up and they say, "Hey, boy, stop. We need to talk to you." What? We saw you coming from the house. They have their hands on their guns. Maybe they even have the gun out. Right? He reaches for it. The gun goes off. He's still dead in this scenario. All right? Aubrey is still dead, having reached for the gun that created some of this situation or helped to create some of this situation. We're talking about a very different scenario. It probably would have been justified at that point.
You see, and that's my confusion. I don't understand how it's more or less justified.
Because bringing the shotgun does escalate it. it shows that they stopped, they thought about this. And I know this, the P word, premeditation, is going to be dropped here again. They stopped, they thought about it, they went and took the time to get the shotgun and then track him down again. Okay. That's the difference. Is now they're anticipating and expecting the violence based on
the premeditation for a shotgun and a handgun, I think to me, it's on the same level. I mean, it's not like it was just some pocket knife that you just, happen to always carry on your person.
Okay, let's set pocket knife off to the side, because that's as ridiculous as nuclear bomb. And I saw that, by the way, Squatch. Moving on. Why did they feel a need to grab a shotgun? Rittenhouse felt he needed the rifle because there had been violence. There had been a day of violence already. That was an undisputable fact. There had been violence. We know there's going to be more violence. There's not even a question. There is going to be more violence here. Versus McMichaels. We know this guy is a burglar. All right,
and violent from his previous experiences, but yes.
Okay, where is this coming from? Because this is literally the first time I'm hearing that.
There is video. There is video of him at another stop where he got extremely belligerent. Like he is a known volatile
belligerent
individual.
Or violent?
I don't recall the specific video that I saw. Yes.
Oh.
I'm gonna just be safe and say yes, because it was pretty extreme. And as I said, the McMichaels or the senior had ran into this individual before.
Okay. Well, a lot of this is news to me. So interesting. Yeah. I got to center myself for a second. Okay. Well, there is and this is a well-documented concept in law, proportionality of response. And the shotgun exceeded the proportionality of response based on the information I had an hour and 15 minutes ago.
Earlier today?
Yeah.
No,
well,
I know that he's been yeeted off YouTube, but when the Ahmaud Arbery case first kicked off.
I have some parts.
Yes.
Okay. Karn, I'm going to ask you to drop all of these things into the chat or comments afterwards, because a lot of this is news to me. Papa McMichaels having actually known who Arbery was.
I am at work. Hello?
Yeah, we noticed. You're at work.
Hello?
Yes. 3, 2, 1. Okay, Karn, I'm going to mute you for a second. Because you can't hear us, apparently. I'm going to just start chattering away. And I actually do have some other things to get onto. Totes asked, belligerent or violent? There is a difference. Being loud and obnoxious. Hell, I'm loud and obnoxious. Even when I'm in the right, I'm loud and obnoxious. as for that being all the more reason to hang back and let the police handle it, no. This was a suspect who'd been caught red-handed in a criminal act he was involved in. You can't just hang back and wait for the cops to show up an hour later and the evidence is gone. And what proof is there he did anything? We seem to have lost Karn. Unfortunately, that was kind of expected. And he's, yeah, he cut out. So I'm going to move on. Comparing a situation where you know violence is going to happen because it's been happening for 48 hours, 36 hours. It's not the same thing as a situation where it could happen. The shotgun is the reason that this went from a justifiable shooting to manslaughter, not murder. Intent to commit X crime is, or intent to commit a crime is an element of the murders, the types of murders, versus lack of intent to do anything or intent to do something very, very different that you had a right to be doing. It's part of manslaughter. Not every state breaks up manslaughter. Those that do generally have two types of manslaughter. First one is man one. You're doing something you know you shouldn't be doing. You know, like driving drunk, and somebody gets killed as a result. Okay. That's not okay at any level. Then man two is where you're doing something that anybody outside would have looked at it and said, wait, what? And rather than doing something you know is illegal, you do something you thought was kind of funny at the time, and you didn't predict that this was going to happen. And I remember from my ROP days, the example that my instructor used, putting a cherry bomb into or a bunch of cherry bombs into a coffee can and lighting it up, thinking this will be funny. And well, no, it turned out to be not so funny because somebody died. Which one was it? This one is really hard between the two. You did something you know you shouldn't have been doing versus doing something, did you really know you shouldn't have been doing it? I don't know. Toad asks, something wrong with the truck, or there's phones that they could follow the guy on foot? Yeah, he was running. Running is exhausting. And as for following him in the truck, he would have seen them and turned off another direction if he was a legitimate burglar. Karn is back, and I'm going to see if he dropped something in the private chat. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. So I'm going to wait until he says something in the private chat and then go from there. I'm also going to move it around. I do need to move on to the next subject, which was, no, that was the last one at this point, so I guess I can spurg out a little bit longer. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. No, I haven't already made it pretty clear what I want to do. Karn, you're going to have to unmute your mic if you're going to.
Are we in?
Yeah, you're in.
Oh, all right. Now, there was something that was said in the chat about the McMichaels establishing a threat.
What?
The McMichaels establishing making themselves a threatening presence or causing distress or something to that effect. Do they understand what training we go through when it comes to the continuum of force and how that operates?
It's interesting you brought that subject up.
Because when it comes to the continuum of force, and this is why I have, again, another problem with your analysis regarding the shotgun versus pistol, your mere presence is use of force.
He's right. It's actually called officer presence.
So,
Literally,
I mean, at what point do you draw the line of, oh, they cause a threatening environment? It's truly arbitrary.
No, it's not. That's not arbitrary at all.
In terms of legality, it's too gray, and it leaves too many good men on the wrong end of the stick.
Again, no. It's a 2-on-1 fight. They've got the vehicle, so they can. They did track him down. Let's leave the cameraman in his car for a moment. It's now a 2-on-1 fight. They've come to me. They've got these handguns. Even if I get his gun, the other guy's going to shoot me. And okay, what's going on?
No, hang on. No. That's where I disagree with you. It's not a fight until you choose to engage.
All right, well, no, it's a fight when you think you're threatened, and that's a legitimate comment.
You know, I don't believe he felt threatened. I can't mind read the victim. They're dead.
Okay. Well, no, he's right. You can't mind read. Totes, that's the term officer presence, and it applies to pretty much everything. Military, just your mere presence presents
It's technically use of force.
It is technically use of force. Burglars typically don't break into houses when they know somebody's home.
Exactly.
That's still officer presence concept. And there is no such thing as stealth mode, especially in a vehicle. If you don't know you're being followed by a car, especially when you're on foot, you're willfully ignorant. And there's a reason why you'd be willfully ignorant. Means you don't want to believe there's something going on, even though, yeah, you do. Okay. All right. Show me the established reason that they felt they needed to bring the shotgun in particular.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, why do cops feel like? I mean, it literally doesn't matter. If we're going to go through the whole community policing outline, that's again a distinction without a difference. I'm not moved by this argument of a shotgun. I don't care. Do they have the right to hold him or not?
They had a right to stop him. Yes.
Yes.
That was reasonably established fact.
So what they chose to present in that process, I'm utterly indifferent to.
A police officer doing the exact same thing would have been charged with murder and probably found guilty. And if you don't,
I'm not convinced. Well, maybe in Georgia. Maybe in Georgia.
No, not even in Georgia. New York, California, Texas.
Okay, say that again.
Texas.
No. Really? In Texas? Are you certain?
I am dead certain.
I'm right. You have case law on this, but I'm not convinced.
Yes. It was northern Texas. I want to say Amarillo, Lubbock, somewhere in that region. And I will dig it up. Now,
Okay.
this one's on me. I got to dig this one up. But yes, police officer stopped somebody for an apparent non-violent crime, pulled the shotgun. This is back in the day when cops still carried shotguns and not AR-15s.
Mm.
And things escalated very, very quickly from there. Somebody ended up dead, and the cop was charged with murder.
Was he found guilty?
You know, this being 20 years ago, I don't know. I don't remember. Correction. I heard about this. Well, let's see. I'm 45, almost 25 years ago. It was before I was old enough to drink, but after high school. Chef's College.
Okay.
I'm 45 now. I wasn't old enough to drink, so that's got to be at least 25 years ago. And I don't know how much older it was then. And it was actually that continuation of force. What was the term you used?
It's the force continuum.
Thank you.
Or the use of force continuum.
In training, you have to use proportional force to the situation. Taking a shotgun out for a nonviolent crime exceeds that proportional force.
Well, you do have a valid point when it comes to police and policeman training. Are civilians held to that standard?
Stop a second. Did anybody else hear that?
No.
I just heard the angels start to sing. Okay, go on.
How are you? Oh.
And what are the angels singing? What are the angels singing?
Just a general chorus octave. Ah. Whoa, okay, hold up. Karn, I got to interrupt you here for a second. Toads asked, did Ahmad have the right to attack that a man that he believed was not in the illegal possession of, ? I think he meant gun. I mean, if you're giving license to take lethal action on theoretical crimes, not in legal possession of a gun. I'm not even sure where that came from. That assumes that he knew something that we can't assume.
Yeah, and that's, again, it would require mind reading the dead.
It would require mind reading everybody in question. So that's a moot. That's moot.
I mean, we could ask, did Ahmad fear for his life? Does it matter? The Michaels had the right to apprehend him, point blank. Whether that made him afraid for his life, well, that's kind of a personal problem.
No, that's not moot. Bringing the shotgun made Ahmad fear for his life. We're not talking about Los Angeles or New York or someplace else that does not have a history of the KKK. Let's go there. Doesn't have a history of KKK influence and power. 2 or 3 or 5 or 20 white guys jump out of a truck in Georgia. Fucking, I'm standing back thinking, holy shit, the KKK just came to town. What the hell? Hell, I'll tell you the truth. If I'd been there and I saw the shotgun, there might have been more guns involved.
Well, that's an interesting conversation, because it's not like these guys just drove down to Ahmad's neighborhood. In fact, Ahmad's neighborhood was a 3-hour jog or like 6-hour jog from where he lived. So, again, white supremacy history or not, Do individuals have the right to community police?
Yes. Do they have the
Okay.
right to bring, or do they have a right to bring artillery
Yes.
to? Well, we're gonna have to disagree here a whole lot. Uh, this is back to the ridiculous extremes, the pocket knife or the nuclear bomb, or artillery, a pack 51, whatever it was. Yeah, it's you have to keep your response proportional, and a police officer who brought disproportional response in Texas, of all places, North Texas, like I said, Lubbock or Amarillo, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay. Okay. Here's the
25
difference,
years ago.
and here's why I might have a problem with that. Again, we're talking about an officer who knew it was a nonviolent issue, and he didn't know who he was dealing with, apparently. And we say proportional as if it's not situational, because out here in Texas, someone comes on your property, you can answer with a shotgun.
That's true.
Are we going to have a discussion about proportionality?
You're defending your own home. That's a different scenario.
I see your point, and it's a valid point. However, if you're
And,
going to go out and community police,
Matt,
my
I got to
question
interrupt
is
you here for a second.
why not the shotgun?
I got to interrupt you here for a second. And for those of you that might think that the two of us are being ridiculous or crazy or something, there was actually another shooting last week. A guy on a porch tried to take the gun
Correct.
from the resident and ended up dead. He is very,
Yes.
very dead. He was dead
And
before
the
the
resident
911
and the
finished.
resident
Go ahead.
and the resident is very, very, very not arrested.
He got the gun back, despite some other issues surrounding him having the gun. His girlfriend is a convicted felon.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting and perplexing to me development. But moving right along. At the end of the day, McMichaels were not a proportional response to the situation, and that's the difference. And it's no.
And I agree, but I don't understand why it's relevant or important.
Because you can't bring a nuclear bomb to a citizen's arrest. You can't.
So you bring the pocket knife?
No, that's just as ridiculous.
I know.
Stop trying to play this this game of, well, the exact opposite is just the same. All right. You have to have a proportional response.
Okay. Let me try to express my position here even more fully than going.
No. Oh my God.
You are trying to be reasonable. You are trying to be reasonable. Okay? And I understand that is a good and worthwhile thing. The people pursuing these actions are not reasonable.
Well,
the jury who said, okay.
For those of you that just caught that, the people pursuing these actions are not reasonable. No, actually, they're not. That's why they were overcharged. That's why the murder charge was on the table ever.
Yes.
Right? If they were being reasonable, Rittenhouse would never have been charged to begin with. They may not have pinned a medal on him. They wouldn't have charged him. They wouldn't have charged him. The the McMichaels would have been charged with what they actually did, which was manslaughter and never murder.
So my question is, why are we having a conversation of good faith surrounding this case at all? You know where the
Because
lines are. You know what the agenda is. Your job in my personal mission, and I hope I get this across, is to
You got
stay
it
as
across.
far away from the line they want as humanly possible. And that means
no.
taking an unreasonable position.
And my answer is still no, because the same unreasonableness that you're accusing them of now, the DAs in these two cases, is the same unreasonableness you're advocating.
I disagree, and I see no evidence of that in society. None.
You think it's okay to bring a shotgun to a citizen's arrest and don't see the irony of the unreasonableness? What? Ooh. Could you move out of the noisy environment?
Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry. What's up?
You're the noise. Because you're actually hurting my ear. Remember, I'm working on a Bluetooth here, people. Every sound goes directly into my ear.
Same.
Okay. You can't demand other people be reasonable and then be unreasonable yourself. That doesn't work.
I understand. But hang on. I can demand people just be just as unreasonable as I am.
Stop. Totes, did I not address the question of you cannot claim X when you're doing X yourself earlier in BOEBERT versus OMAR? Please. A yes, a no, a Y, an N. I don't care. Okay. Totes is also saying your caller is ignorant of the details of Georgia citizens arrest law. Once the suspect has fled, guilty or not, you no longer have the right to detain. No, that is not correct. That would be correct in a misdemeanor case, but in a felony case, you had the right to continue the apprehension because this is a felony. Or continue the pursuit. Now that
and
law
that's
may
whether
have,
you're right or wrong.
Yeah, that law apparently is being changed in Georgia now, which was my break point. I don't know if Totes caught it or not. I don't remember Totes saying anything. Squatch did catch that. He saw that video about why I would not so much as call 911 in Georgia right now because the state has gone batshit. They had no way of knowing if this was a felony, a misdemeanor. They didn't know what the hell. They only knew that this guy had broken into that house or was accused of breaking into that house, and they needed to find out what the hell's going on. Otherwise, why would I chase down? Okay. Otherwise, why would I stop somebody for a rape? Karn, I'll see you on Discord.
See you later, man. Bye.
Friday. Okay. So, yeah, you actually did have the right to continue the pursuit. That rule has now changed or being changed or something. I'm not exactly sure the whole story there. So all I have, okay, there. All I have there is that Viva said something about it changing. That was a couple days ago. God damn it. What the hell? Okay, anyway, moving on. Okay, Totes asks, is Karn stealing company time. Should he be shot and killed for this? Well, it depends on the company policy. Maybe he's not stealing anything. And because I happen to have a good working knowledge of his industry, the answer would be no. He's not stealing anything. I don't dox, but Karn would have a reason to understand intimately how Texas self-defense law works. I'm going to do a little bit of a dox here. Karn was involved in a very violent incident involving Antifa and anti-Antifa people down in Texas, and well, he ended up in the hospital because Antifa went fucking batshit. They actually brought brass knuckles and knives, and according to some stories, Molotovs, to what should have been a very civil discussion. They could have sat there and listened to it, bare minimum. Sat there and listened to what was being said, and instead they brought the violence. And Karn got caught up in that and ended up in the hospital. So yeah, it was something he's had a reason to have experience with. Yeah. Oh, Gulch, I'm sorry. I didn't say hello when you came in. That was several minutes ago. And no, Squatch, you cannot have a nuclear bomb. Really? Really? Does the other guy have a nuclear bomb? So yeah, there's the important difference. Rittenhouse knew he was going into a situation that had been violent and was going to continue to be violent. And guess what? He proved to be right. Let's set aside the first guy, because the first guy was looking for a cop to do the thing, and it's what they used to call suicide by cop. All right, now they got some big fancy term for it. He was looking for somebody to kill him, and he got what he was looking for, and that's his problem. Unfortunately, it's also Kyle's problem because it blew up in his face. He's the one that's got to live with the fact that he did it. And then the other two guys decide they're going to jump in. And, three guys, because there was a third one I didn't hear about until sometime around closing arguments. Quote, Jump Kick Man. I didn't know anything about this. I thought Jump Kick Man, I saw, I think, a photo. I thought Jump Kick Man was skateboarder. Was Skater Boy. That's on me. I own it. The other three then jumped in and, well, okay, now he's fighting for his life. Whether they were had any reason to believe they had a reason to deal with Kyle is totally separate. The first guy, the one who's been accused of having been a pedo, was looking for somebody to kill him. It's as simple as that. No, that's not actually his job. Is related to. Yeah, I can't get into that without doxing. But yeah, literally dealing with these sorts of things. Uh, okay. I know Karn is either listening in or going to watch this later. Toad says, "Bro, you're evading when cornered with facts." Karn, that's kind of true. Okay. Here's a fact. The Baldy, I'm going to refer to him as Baldy, the first guy that Kyle shot, was bringing violence, was making it very clear he intended nothing but violence that night. He'd gone out of his way to make it look like he was bringing violence, doing everything short of, maybe because of his mental health history, either getting an actual gun from somebody or going down to the airsoft shop, getting an airsoft, painting that tip black. That has happened before. And coming back and pointing that at somebody. I guess his mental state didn't allow him to think that far. So instead he brought what looked like a bag full of Molotovs. I'm telling you, that's what it looked like to me at the time. And then setting the dumpster on fire. Versus Ahmad, who was running down the street, and that's it. And leaving the scene on top of everything else. His intent to commit violence was pretty clearly over. He's going somewhere else to do something else. I gotta center myself. Proportionality of response was what got the McMichaels into trouble, and lack of proportionality of response is what actually got them into trouble. The murder convictions are also a lack of proportionality of response. Let's charge them with everything under the sun and see what we can make stick. And the cameraman being charged at all is a joke. And just because the other guy committed a crime doesn't turn around and justify you doing the same thing a week later. I'm talking about the DA in both cases. Especially since one of the cases, it wasn't a crime. And the jury agreed. All right, we're at 10 minutes till. So I'm going to switch over. And I didn't call this up. Does anybody remember where I left off with Dadislav? Oh, I do. And here we go. It's ready to go up. Share. Stop that screen. Share a different screen. No, Windows. No, there. All right. Other provisions, Section 5, exemptions. And that's all I'm going to read of that right now. I will get into it much more in depth later on. Stop that screen. Okay. Everybody knows that I believe everybody should be required to carry a weapon when they're outside of their house. I give a little bit of flexibility, maybe to have a gun in your desk when you're at work, or in your car when you work in certain fields or something. Even I say there are times when it's inappropriate, impossible, or counterproductive and dangerous. An example of counterproductive and dangerous, asking a sewage system, sanitation system, whatever you want to call it, employee to carry a gun, no matter how dangerous the rats are, or the fartbergs, or whatever they are, to carry a gun when they're actually on the clock down in that sewer system, you blow up half a city. Very least you would cause an explosion, first of all, that would affect dozens of people very quickly, especially the guy with the gun, right? Sanitation worker, therefore, might have an exemption. A certain type of exemption, by the way. There are three main types of exemptions. Mandatory exemptions are people that we all agree should never, ever even be allowed to look at a copy of NRA magazine. The closest to a gun they should ever be allowed to come is to be given a copy of Dataslav and told, okay, you are now exempt. This is the reason. We all know you're a dangerous individual to society. No, just no. Thank you for coming to the party that is life. Here is your hat and your coat. Don't call us, we'll call you. You're exempt. Mandatory exemptions are generally handed down by a judge. And it actually, in all cases, requires a judge of some sort to say, okay, well, the standard says you're a convicted felon. You just got out of a psych ward this morning. You are a quadriplegic. And I can look at you and say, you're quadriplegic, etc. and so forth. All right, conditional exemptions. Everybody has a situation that comes up where it would be ill-advised at best and flatly dangerous at worst to ask somebody to carry a gun. You're drunk. You work in a sewer system. You work around electric utility lines, right? The first conditional exemption was intoxication. Too drunk to drive, too drunk to carry. We get it? No problem. The next one was actually unsafe work environments, and I had utility workers in mind. As a matter of fact, I thought of it one day when I was driving down the road, and I saw a power guy, electric utility guy working on a pole, and thought, hey, that's not a good situation. Okay, maybe I want to give them some sort of exemption. And at first it was just them. And then I realized that doesn't cover enough, so okay. Conditional exemptions are not handed down by a judge. You hold it upon yourself to say, this conditional exemption exists at this time for this reason. You get done with that condition and the cop has pulled you over and said, where's your gun? And you say, I don't have it. You might have to go to court and explain why. The intoxication exemption was obviously the first one. It doesn't say shall not. It says may not. So if you think that you can carry while drunk, okay, you may be held responsible for the results thereof. The third one is elective exemptions, and there's only two, so I can go over them very quickly. One is conscientious objector. You have to have a piece of paper that is signed by somebody who is testifying under penalty of perjury. You have a conscientious objection. This is the nature of the conscientious objection. Yes, I've reviewed the results or the potential consequences, and I do believe that this individual is a legitimate conscientious objector. It's the same standard as conscientious objector for the draft. And that is a pretty good, that is a good luck. All right. I have not gotten around to writing the section that says if too many conscientious objector exemptions come from the same place, that those conscientious objection provider is to be investigated for possible fraud and perjury, which means they go to prison. The second one is elective exemption. You pay a big fat fine. Excuse me, not a fine, a fee, and you are exempt. That big fat fee is based on what your probability of being able or unable to respond, your inability to respond, what that would cost society times 10. It's meant to be a big fat number. It's meant to be a deterrent to make you really think, do I really want to go there? Or do I want to just do what I know everybody else is expected to do? And you show me any other law that you can pay a fee to get out of. Seatbelts. You can't pay to get out of a seatbelt law. Motorcycles have helmet laws. You can't pay to get out of a motorcycle helmet law. Good luck. I have to do a little switch over because... Okay. Because I can see retracted messages on StreamYard. I can't see them on YouTube. All right. I'm going to close with a question that Totes asked. How about people just have the freedom to choose whether to carry or not? Because they will always choose the laziest possible course. At the end of the day, they will choose the laziest possible course. And then it's meaningless. You can pass all of the right to carry laws in the world. They will ignore it and just not. Also, it makes one uniform national standard so that when I go from Nevada to California to see Papa carry, I don't have to change my gun around. I have to put a bolt in my AR-15 to cross state lines so that it is California compliant. That's a pain in the ass, if nothing else. And if I forget to do it one time, I go to California prison, which is absolutely ridiculous. I have no respect for California law. None. So there it is. All right. At the end of the day, remember, I'm kind of strange and interesting person, which is not a compliment. That doesn't mean I'm wrong. There are people out there who are dedicated their lives to hurting and killing people. Usually we call them terrorists. For those of you that remember Pulse nightclub, all right, Inland Regional Center, etc. If you're not ready for them, you will die. And if you don't believe me, Ask the few survivors there were from Pulse. So, remember, 9017 is coming. Keep calm and mandatory carry on.